It's time to call the Scott County Board of Education meeting to order.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we start our presentations for the month. First, we'd like to start with our February volunteers of the month. And as always, we're so appreciative of your time, your efforts, your sacrifices that you make for the betterment of our students of Scott County. First, from Birchville Elementary, Allison Scales. Fairview Elementary, Andrea Young. Huntsville Elementary, Cynthia Reynolds. Huntsville Middle, Jody Jeffers. Robbins Elementary, Ginger Bond. And Winfield Elementary, Dougie Wilson.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
At this time, it's a great pleasure to announce the Scott High School STAN, Scott County Chamber of Commerce Student of the Month. Brandon Lane Robbins, 17-year-old son of Brandon and Misty Robbins, the Helmwood community, was selected by the Scott High staff as a February STAN Student of the Month. Brandon is a member of the Beta Club and a 2-year member of the Highlander football team. Brandon is a member of the Oneida Church of God and he plays the drums in the choir. Brandon has followed a more rigorous course of study and will graduate in May under the Tennessee Scholars Program. He will attend Rose State under the Tennessee Scholars Program in the fall of 2019. Brandon would love to work in the field of engineering. And standing in for Mr. Brandon Robbins is his mother, Misty Robbins.
Brother, come on up, take up.
You say Brandon's home with the flu, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and at this time, Mr. Chairman, it's always an honor to be able to announce the Scott County Schools Teacher of the Year from each school. As Mr. Blakely mentioned tonight, you are the best of the best. And we appreciate your efforts, what you do. You're selected by your peers and your administrators with this prestigious award. The winner of these will also be selected to go on to the state for those Teacher of the Year competition. Before we hand those out, I would like to announce the following, that the donors that have so graciously given to our Teacher of the Year program. First National Bank, $50. United Cumberland Bank, a $50 silver coin. Plateau Electric, $50 credit on electric bill. Scott County News, a 1-year subscription. Independent Herald, a 1-year subscription. Milford's Flowers with a corsage. And for the Scott County Board of Education, these are for the winners, will be $150 and a plaque. Now at this time, it's a great pleasure to announce the Building Labor Teachers of the Year. First, from Birchville Elementary in the Pre-K through 4 division, Paige Brooks. Paige is secretary. Also from Birchfield, in the 5th through 8th division, Ashley Hawkins. Ashley is a 7th grade teacher with science and social studies. Fairview Elementary, grades pre-K through 4, Heather Lau. And for Fairview Elementary, grades 5 through 8, Joni Lau. Joni is 6th grade. From Huntsville Elementary, in the pre-K through 4, Lisa Sexton. From Huntsville Middle, Rob Luther. Rob teaches 7th grade reading. From Robbins Elementary, in the pre-K through 4, Stephanie Melton. Stephanie teaches kindergarten at Robbins. Grades 5 through 8 from Robbins Elementary, Darlene Overton. Darlene teaches librarian at Robbins Elementary. From Winfield Elementary, pre-K through 4, Michelle Norris. She was also the librarian at Winfield Elementary School.
I didn't even see you back there.
From grades 5 through 8 at Winfield Elementary, David Blevins. David teaches 6th through 8th grade social studies. And from Scott High School, in the grades 9 through 12 division, Jordan Terry. Jordan teaches driver's education at Scott High School.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I would like to announce the district level Teachers of the Year. First, in the pre-K through 4 division, Lisa Sexton, kindergarten teacher. Lisa will be receiving the following items that I just named off a few minutes ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The grades 5 through 8, David Blevins. Grades 9 through 12, Mr. Jordan Terry.
You want the 3 of them to stay?
I got a picture of it, everybody, if everybody else would leave now.
Can I take one of everybody?
Yeah.
Thanks. She sends hers to the friendly competition. Thanks.
Thank you guys for the job you do. A tremendous honor. Thank you guys. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentations for the month of February.
Hey, is there anyone in the office that would like to address the board? If not, we will go to the principal's reports. Heather, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I'd first like to report on our playground fund. Of course, we got the $50,000 from the school board, which we really appreciate. So that brings our fund balance to $108,307.05. Our calendar of events for things coming up soon. Thursday, March 14th is our science fair judging. Friday, March 15th is a science fair viewing. And on Monday, March 25th, we'll get a visit from Miss Tennessee. So if there's no other questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Hutchinson.
All right, just a couple of things. The NAEP test that was scheduled for February the 8th has been rescheduled to February 26th. I want to say we're very proud of both of our boys and girls basketball teams. Boys placed 4th in the state, and our girls won the district. And I want to thank all the cheerleaders for always going with us and supporting us. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Rector.
Thank you. Just a couple of announcements. Basketball is still ongoing at the high school. District tournament does start this week. Both our boys and girls teams will be in action on Friday night at Alcoa. The girls game will be at 6 o'clock and they will play Austin East, and the boys game will be at 7:30 and they will play Kingston. And both of those are playing games, so they do have to win both of those games to continue in the tournament on Saturday. So that'll be a game-to-game situation. Our attendance is rebounding with both students and teachers. Still do have some sickness out there floating around, but not nearly anything like it was last week. So we're glad for that. We do want to remind students and parents that if they were out sick, they do need to make sure that they bring in either a doctor's note or a parent note for being out, so that we can make sure we get those days excused for them. February the 21st will be our TCAT signing day. That's kind of a neat event. We participated with them in that last year, and we're going to do that again this year. And that's a neat day where those students who are going to go on next year, those seniors who are going to go on next year and enroll in a TCAT program, they get to actually have a day of signing and celebration for them. So that's kind of a neat day. That's on February the 21st. We did send out progress reports early this week. And our spring sports are currently practicing, and those sports will begin the 1st of March. So we're rolling right on into spring. That's all that I have, unless you all have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shannon.
As Ms. Rector had mentioned, our grade reports went out as well all this week, so all of our students should have one in hand. Also wanted to make mention, no school on Monday, February the 18th. We do have Bible release coming up on Tuesday the 19th. The Robbins Food Pantry will be operating again on Tuesday the 19th from 3:30 until 5:30. So we wanted to mention that. Wednesday the 20th is early release day again. Let's see, also wanted to mention that we'll have our next school store sale during the first week of March. This is a cooperative thing between Trophy Masters and our school, where we will sell certain items, all of the Robbins school apparel that any of the families may want or need can be purchased through our school store, and a portion of the proceeds, or all of the proceeds, are divided amongst our extracurricular activity groups. So we're appreciative of that. And I'd also like to mention our school's new venture into an extension of the Museum of Scott County. We'll have a portion of our building set aside, and our museum club, under the direction of Miss Shirley Stevens, is going to be working with Mr. Gary Sexton to get that up and running. The first meeting for our group to go up and visit with Coach Sexton will be next Thursday during his planning period. And we believe that this museum, like the one at Scott High, will be a wonderful way to preserve historical artifacts from our community, honor important people in our communities, as well as provide a way for our students to learn about our school's long and rich history. So, but that's all I've got, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay. Do you have very many for the Bible release? Do you have any kids doing that?
We do, and to be honest with you, I can't tell you the exact number, but it is a good amount. I'd love to see it 2 school buses, but I'm pretty sure that we take the better part of one.
Okay, good, thank you. Ms. Stanley.
Mr. Shannon already mentioned that we have no school Monday for President's Day and that Wednesday is the early release day. Announcing to the parents that we were supposed to have picture day tomorrow and that's been postponed until March the 4th. So if the parents would mark that on their calendars. Also, we have the science fair on Friday, March the 1st, and we will have family reading night and science night the night before on Thursday the 28th. So if any of you would like to come up and judge, and I'm sure probably Mr. Laxton will be calling some of you if he hasn't already and asking you to be a judge for the science contest, and you can just always volunteer if you want to. Pre-K and K registration on Friday, March the 1st also. That's going to be a busy day for us. The registration for Pre-K and K will be from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. So we encourage all of the parents in all of the communities to get out and register their Pre-K and kindergarten students. From Friday, March 1st until Friday, March the 8th, we will be having Dr. Seuss's Read Across America Week. And once again, we will be asking for lots of volunteers from the board, the central office, the community in Winfield, and anybody who's watching this that would like to come up to read to the kids. I don't know if, I know some of you have done this before, but it is such a rewarding experience, especially with those young ones. They absolutely love it, and they are so great to work with. They get so excited when you come in. So we certainly welcome all of you to come in and read one of Dr. Seuss's stories. That's March 1st through the 8th. So just let us know when a time is good for you, and we'll be glad to accommodate that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cash.
Most of the stuff I have already been mentioned, but again, no school Monday for President's Day, early release day on Wednesday. Car riders leave at 12:30 at Fairview. Buses will leave around 1. Our science fair is next week, next Tuesday they'll be setting up, and then we actually will judge Wednesday morning on the earliest day. We did that last year, it worked out fairly well. So science fair next week. Thursday on 21st, there'll be a couple of our classes at Fairview, and I think Robbins as well will be taking an online verification test. So that we'll have a couple classes doing that. I think it's a 45 minute test next Thursday. Like Ms. Stanley just mentioned, pre-K and kindergarten registration March 1st. Soccer starts a little over 2 weeks. Our first game is at Birchfield on March the 5th. And then maybe the most exciting news, we've got a new sub-bus driver at Fairview, so I'm tickled with that. It took me a year or two to talk this one into it, but she finally got finished last week. But we always need more. So I want to thank Mr. Hall, kind of going off what the director said about the sickness. Fairview, we wasn't hit very hard as far as attendance for students, but it hit our faculty and staff really hard. We're seeing a little bit of effect now, but it's not near as bad as it was. Got to a point last year where, or last week, where we was trying to find subs for subs, and so it was really rough. So I'm glad. It seemed like that was the right call, and so thanks for that. And that's all I have, unless you guys have anything.
Thank you. Mr. Howell.
Thank you. As the principals have mentioned tonight, no school Monday, February 18th for President's Day. An early release set for Wednesday, February the 20th. I do want to take time now to congratulate the Huntsville Middle School boys basketball team. In the inaugural state tournament that was set this year by the Team SAA, they were one of the final 4 teams in the state of Tennessee. That's a great honor to not only our school but our community and those players and coaches for being one of those final 4 teams. Because I think they ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw from the team out of Memphis. But the good thing is they got exposed to that type of atmosphere, that type of play to get there. And I think it kind of set a precedent for the rest of us now that it's attainable, it's reachable, and we can, more than just them can get there. I applaud Team SAA for doing this. I think this has been a tremendous step to not only getting great competition from across state against each other, but to get more teams involved in the TMSAA. You know, I think that really having a true state champion goes a long way with what they've done, and I applaud them. But more importantly, I applaud the efforts of Huntsville Middle School for that tremendous accomplishment. This year, even though they finished fourth, guys, they're there. And like I said, your kids got to experience something that was tremendous. So that was absolutely wonderful. Reminder to the board, with the Day on the Hill, with legislators on Tuesday, we're going on the 18th. We meet with the legislators on the 19th. Right now, our meetings are scheduled with Mr. Yeager at 10 o'clock. With Mr. Keeson right now, it's at 8 a.m., but I'm trying to get him to work around that time because we have meetings and breakfast that morning with TSBA people, so I gotta call him back tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know tomorrow if we can work out another time. Again, looking forward to going down there. Kinda went down on Tuesday myself with the Plateau Electric with the Day on the Hill, and got to talk to a lot of other people, not just our legislators, but from other areas. Of course, you know the battle that we're fighting with the voucher bill and those type of things, and that has picked up a lot of steam, kind of what I'm gathering, but, you know, we're gonna continue that fight because it's worth the effort until it's voted upon. But anyway, that's kind of where we are from the legislative standpoint. We'll know more Tuesday when we are there. We'd like to announce that we did have a bus involved in an accident this afternoon on the way home. Apparently a unmanned vehicle rolled out of the parking lot, Hellwood Foods, and rolled across the highway. That vehicle was hit by a Scott Appalachian Industry van and knocked it over into our bus. Now, it did some minor damage to the bus, but no one was hurt, no injuries, so that was always good. I think Officer Sexton, probably had to work that. So, anyway, again, no injuries to report, and, you know, our driver was not at fault, so that always pleasant. You know, you don't want an accident, period. But like I said, no injuries happened. I think the kids are now all home safe, so that's the good thing with it. And that's all I have, unless y'all have any questions. Oh, Scott High basketball tournament Friday night, Ms. Rector mentioned district tournament play. The girls are at all time, 6 o'clock, is that correct? 6 for both. 7:30?
7:30.
It is all at Alcoa. Okay, good, so it's not a satellite for sure, good deal. All right, so 6 and 7:30 at Alcoa High School tomorrow night. That's all I have, unless y'all have questions for me. Oh, let me mention this too. Lights, Ms. Stanley, told you earlier. I do have some proposals for the lights and the quotes, so, you know, I need to get one more, but right now it's pretty good what we have. So we're looking to get that project started as soon as we can. Yay! So, I know you'll be happy. So anyway, that's all I have. If y'all have any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 7, adoption of the agenda. In accordance with board policy number 1.403, the Scott County Board of Education should adopt an agenda of all items to be acted on during the regular monthly meeting. May I have a motion to approve the February 14th, 2019 agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox? Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.
Item 8, consent agenda items. In accordance with the Scott County Board of Education policy number 4.403, the Board of Education may include routine and non-controversial items on a consent agenda, which may be adopted by a single vote without discussion. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed and placed on the regular agenda for further consideration at the request of any board member. Excuse me. May I have a motion to approve the items listed on the consent agenda as follows? A, approval of the minutes for January the 10th, 2019. B, approval of the bills for December 2018. And C, approval of the December 2018 financial report.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton? Mr. Silcox? Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Item 9A, approve overnight trips. Board approval is needed for out-of-state overnight school trips according to board policy number 4.302. May I have a motion to grant permission for the following trips? Birchfield, consulting coach and fourth grade teacher, January 31st through February the 1st of 2019 at Bristol, Tennessee. Consulting coach, Read to be Ready, January the 13th through the 16th, 2019 in Nashville, Tennessee. Robbins Elementary, Guided Math Game Plan, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, February the 28th, 2019. Principal and football coach, February the 7th through the 10th of 2019, coaching clinic in Atlanta, Georgia. Robbins Elementary, Fairview Elementary, Winfield Elementary. Tennessee Council for Social Studies, March the 7th through the 8th of 2019 in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Huntsville Middle Beta Club, May the 8th through the 10th at Pigeon Forge. Fairview Elementary Beta Club, May the 13th through the 15th, 2019 in Pigeon Forge. CSH Institute, Franklin, Tennessee, April the 7th through the 10th of 2019. Special Education, Student Discipline, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, March the 3rd through the 7th of 2019. And Family Resource, TCCY, Children's Advocacy, Nashville, Tennessee, March the 12th through the 13th of 2019. Wait for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just curious, what's CSH?
Coordinated School Health.
Okay, I'm just trying to get used to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon and I will be going to the Student Discipline Institute. I completely forgot about doing that.
Okay, I'll get Sharon to put that on, we'll add that on.
That's 6th and 7th of March.
March.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Stanley? Mr. Silcox? Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton?
Item 9B, approve amendments. And pursuant to board policy number 2.201, the Scott County Board of Education needs to approve budget amendments required to balance the budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019. This action will allow funds to be applied to areas of the budget that lack sufficient funds to complete the school year. May I have a motion to approve the following amendments? 2018-2019 Federal Budget Amendment Number 5.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Silcox? Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley? Mr. Sexton?
Item 9C, approve the Read to Be Ready grant. The Read to Be Ready summer grant provides literacy opportunities to students entering first, second, and/or third grade. The goal is to develop students' love for reading and writing over the summer months. May I have a motion to approve the Read to Be Ready grant?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox? Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley? Mr. Sexton?
Item 9D, school calendar. In accordance with Scott County Board Policy Number 1.800, the Scott County Board of Education will adopt, upon recommendation of the director, an official school calendar for the succeeding school year. The calendar will identify holidays, vacation days, summer sessions, and other extensions of the school year. The calendar may be revised by the board for such things as inclement weather or other factors if recommended by the director of schools. May I have a motion to approve the school calendar for the 2019-2020 school year?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Sharp,
Aye.
Ms. Kidd,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Stanley, Mr. Sexton, Mr. Silcox.
Item 9E, award bids. Bids for food service items were received and opened by the Finance Committee and referred to the board for consideration. May I have a motion to award the following bid for food service, Pilgrim's Pride?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Stanley,
Aye.
Ms. Kidd,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Sexton,
Aye.
Mr. Silcox, Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Sharp.
Item 9F, beef processing bid. The food service director is requesting board approval to pursue purchasing beef products through the Hillshire Farms Company by use of the Anderson County School Nutrition Department commodity beef bid. The Anderson County bid states that other school systems with vendor approval may use this bid for purchase in their district. May I have a motion to allow the food service director to use Anderson County's beef processing bid if the vendor allows?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Silcox,
Aye.
Ms. Sharp,
Aye.
Ms. Kidd,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Stanley,
Aye.
Mr. Sexton.
Item 9G, approve the board policy. Approval is needed by the board to amend board policies as recommended by TSBA. May I have a motion to approve the following board policy and waive the second reading? Policy number 3.212, district water testing.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Stanley,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Silcox,
Aye.
Ms. Sharp,
Aye.
Ms. Kidd,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Sexton.
Item 9H, amend board policy. The board would need to amend board policy number 3.206, which currently states that the school facilities may not be used for private profit except for a daycare center. May I have a motion to approve the first reading to amend the board policy number 3.206, community use of school facilities?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
And when are we going to look at amending them?
What's that, sorry?
I'm sure John will be doing that.
This is the first reading? Nobody's going to wait.
Your board policy says that in matters of unusual urgency, you can waive the second reading. So I'll leave that up to you. If you were to amend the policy, I have looked at your current policy. I would recommend that you take out the provision that says school facilities may not be used for private profit. And then I would also recommend that you eliminate the last provision, which is paragraph 10, that says the board will approve and periodically review a contract for the use of school facilities. So those are the changes that you'd have to make to that.
Is there some kind of wording, verbiage that we need to put in there to gives us access to limit some of our facilities, not leaving them open to anybody? As far as anybody that wants to make profit use our school facilities.
I think it's still, our facilities is first for our students, our kids, our sports, our teams,
Right.
those things. It falls under the guidance of the principal,
Okay.
okay?
I think, right now, your current policy says that the application would be made to the principal. And the way that I have drafted the agreement that I think you received maybe at the work session is that any representative of the board, the director, or the principal could reject an application for any reason.
So there's that clause in there.
There he is, yes. And also, you know, I've put some language in there that said that any use of the school facilities would need to be what was stated in the contract for the well-being, and that is for the development of students.
Right.
Whether it's educational or physical education or something like that. So I've tried to address, you know, the concerns that you had and also the concerns that the system would have as a whole. I know that Ms. Rector has expressed some concern about going forward with it. I mean, it's up to you, but we have to be sensitive to each principal that has to ultimately be responsible for the facilities. And we can't put any undue burden on the principals or the schools. So we have to be cognizant of that. I think it's something, I'm not saying that this contract is perfect, it's probably not, but I think by amending the policy to that, you know, to basically require the board to look at it periodically, it may be something that we need to change if y'all go forward with this. We may need to make some adjustments later based upon what happens, you know, as we go forward. So, yeah, I have put in there, you know, I think it's essential that they do secure a insurance policy that names the board an additional insured. The reason for that is because this is not a school-sponsored event, or what you're talking about. If there was an injury, I don't think we would be covered under our insurance. And that is why that is essential. We have to have that coverage. We have to be a named insured under that policy to make sure that the board is covered and there's no liability on our part. I think that is essential.
I think that is a factor that will decrease wanting to use the facilities, because that requirement is going to be that they have adequate insurance, or they won't even be considered.
It will weed a lot of applicants out, yes.
Yes.
But I think that is the number one requirement that we have to have.
So do we have to have another reading on this then?
Unless you choose to waive the second reading, like you did in the previous resolution.
Would that have to be like another motion? Or would that be included in this motion to do
Well,
that?
you would have to just add the phrase "and waive the second reading" to this.
Who made the motion?
Derek made the motion.
Derek made the motion. Are you going to add that? Do you agree to have that added to that then?
Waive the second reading?
Yeah.
What are the dates to this, so I can even make sure that we're even open yet, because I don't know.
But they may not decide to use your school, you know.
Is it not already advertised, Linda?
Yeah.
It is, it's already all over Facebook.
It is on the town, right, but they will have to get with the principals, you know, to make sure that you agree. So and you may not. It's not a signed contract yet.
Well, I know, but I thought that was the rush to get this done, is so that they could go ahead, and so I just wanted to,
29th of February.
no, March, yeah, it's like in a month.
Well, if, you know, you would still have time to do a second reading. That's up to you. I mean, like I said, the policy says in matters of unusual urgency, so there's no definition in the law as to what that is, but I'll leave that up to you.
My question is, you said we could still do it if we waive the second reading. I just want to make sure before that happens, if we can have a second reading, I think it might give us a little more time to make everybody, or let everybody look into it a little bit more, feel a little more comfortable. Has anybody been in contact with Tinseltown and talked with them? Okay.
I was gonna wait till what was coming on, then
Okay.
contact our principal.
I know you said that we have time for a second reading, but we have to notify them now if we're gonna be able to do this or not. So I don't see how we have time for that.
Yeah, I didn't know if they gave us a deadline or not. That's why I was asking if anybody's been in contact with them.
They said they would like to know the first week in February.
Okay.
Next week's tournament, they have 60 teams coming to Campbell County, and they said no to 40 teams. But, you know, they need to let the teams know in time, you know, to make an application to come and be a part of it.
Okay, so if I waive the second reading, do we know what the policy is actually going to say after that? When does that actually take place, the change in the policy, the wording?
Mr. Bailey will
Word that and get, I'll have to take out that phrase that says that the facilities cannot be used for private profit. And I would take out the language about it only being used by a community or civic organization or other nonprofit. But it would still require the board to approve and review a contract for the use of school facilities.
And it would still require the principal's approval for the facility.
Yes, that would,
Okay.
that would stay there.
Okay.
You need to have as an insured, you'd have to have us added also, wouldn't you, on insurance, something?
Yes, if the contract was adopted, yes.
Right.
But like I said, I think that's essential, that if you're going to move forward, we have to be a named insured on a policy that has those significant limits. And I didn't pick those numbers out of the air. That's what we're covered for in any school-sponsored event, so we've got to have the same coverage. But the number one says, requests for the use of school facilities shall be made at the office of the principal prior to the date of use. And then my contract says that it could be rejected for any reason by the board, the director, or the principal of the approved school.
And if we try something, I mean, we put this policy in force, and it doesn't work, something doesn't work, we don't have to wait a time frame before we readjust the policy, do we? We can fix it the next month if we needed to, couldn't we? Go back to the old policy even if we needed to.
You could go back to the old policy, or you could adjust it.
There's no time limit that we have to wait before we correct any problems that we see.
Do we know what days these events will be taking place?
It's
I mean,
March,
the
I'm not
days,
sure about the date, but
Friday,
it's the end of March.
Is it
sometime.
Fridays, Saturdays, through the week?
It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 29th, 30th, 31st.
It's on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
It's on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Tinseltownsports.com.
It's going to take place on Sunday?
I don't necessarily like that.
Still has to be approved though.
Uh,
But they still have to approve it if it's going to take place on Sunday. I mean, the principals, and that's something we can always change.
Right.
I mean, you can say you can have Friday and Saturday, but you can't have Sunday.
But I mean, for us doing this policy change doesn't mean that we're gonna be having them over here these days.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're going to approve any particular event.
Well, but guys, I think it's pretty clear that that's something that's very supported by you all. I mean, let's just be honest with that, okay? So, I mean, it does put us in a bit of a position, I mean, let's just be honest, to, you know, try to ensure that this happens. And that's fine. It's just very surprising when the people being asked to do it aren't involved in the discussion about it at all. Okay? So we'll do what we can do, and we'll look at the application, and if it's there and we can make it work, we'll absolutely make it work. But that's frustrating.
Is there any discussion you'd like to have right now?
No, at this point, I mean, I really think at this point it would have been easier to proceed if we had known about this, if I'd known about this before, we could have proceeded and looked at doing some type of special approval rather than looking at changing the policy as a whole. Changing the policy as a whole, even though I agree, I think the insurance limits are going to weed out a lot, I still think that we're underestimating the amount of people that we're going to get that come in. And I think they're going to come in with this idea that, again, that it's just going to be a simple approval process and move on. And I really think when the rubber meets the road, it's a lot more complicated than that. Now, we'll get into it and we'll see. And if we need to come back to it, I hope you'll be open to listening to that feedback. But we'll kind of go from there. I do have a couple of questions about procedure, just to kind of know, especially if we have something coming up pretty quickly. And that is, will anything about this new policy or contract change the current fee structure that's in place? Is that gone? Will that stay in place as far as the fee structure that the board had approved previously for maintenance or for the facility cost? Because that would be fees that we would collect and then turn over, because you're going to be paying for lights and, you know, water and all that stuff. We would turn. Is that still in place, or does that go?
You know, we could incorporate that.
Okay.
What you sent me was
Yes.
actually the agreement that I had drafted years ago.
Yes.
And I did not realize that that had already been adopted in 2013.
13, yeah.
There is a fee structure for maintenance and for the use of the facility.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I left other terms blank on
Okay,
this, so we could incorporate that.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to require our employees to be the maintenance, but I do want, you know, if this was going forward, I want them to be responsible for that. See what I'm saying?
That was my question, which I wasn't here last week, I apologize, but, like the facilities, who's gonna be responsible for opening the doors and closing the doors and?
It would still be a requirement of the principal.
Oh my gosh.
Or someone that's, you know, that
Yeah.
has the authority over the building. And we can't get around that.
Yeah.
And we can't.
I mean, my question is that, will somebody, an employee, maybe not the principal or designee,
It can be a designee.
but does that person have to be there
Yes.
the whole time?
There has to be a
representative.
I
There
would
would have to be a
recommend that there be a
school representative
representative,
there the whole time,
and that is, a representative of the school needs to be there at all times.
And couldn't it be incorporated to where that person receives a fee for that?
That's what the use of facilities contract is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could get that money for
Either
being
they're
there.
responsible
That's what it is.
for the cleanup and the security,
Sure.
or they contract with employees outside of
Yes.
their responsibilities, which we had built into the other contract. And we can incorporate that into the other terms, and that's
Okay.
why I left that blank.
Okay.
That'd be good.
And there was, oh, my second question, because I know I have one coming up here this next month. In the old policy, we were able to open the facilities to nonprofit community groups or businesses. For example, if the Scott County Emergency Agency, they've got a meeting scheduled that they're going to use our school for. Are the insurance limits going to apply to them? Because they're not really, they're just meetings.
Just me, yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay.
The current policy will not be changed with
Okay.
respect to that. That allows civic and nonprofit organizations to
Okay.
use it.
And so then those limits would not apply to those groups?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I just want to say real quick, one reason that I think it might be a good idea to go ahead and change the policy now is because, there's going to be a lot of things maybe we don't want to do. We don't want them to use our facilities for. But I think to say that there's not going to be anything that ever comes along that's going to be beneficial, and we're going to look at it and say, yes, this is a great idea, it's going to benefit everybody, it's going to be a great thing. To say that all of it's going to be bad, I don't think that's going to be the case. There's going to be eventually something come along where somebody else is going to make some money, but we are gonna benefit, our kids are gonna benefit, and it's gonna be a good thing overall. Now that's my opinion, maybe not, but I'm saying I don't think it's, reasonable to think that nothing ever is gonna come along that's gonna be something that we wanna do like that. There's gotta be something out there that's gonna benefit us and our kids and our community, and maybe somebody else makes a little money. But right now, that door's not open at all.
Right.
And if we still have the control over the application process and the principals can work it out and we can approve it, why not leave the door open a little bit in case something good does come along? But I will go ahead and, if there's any more discussion.
Let me go ahead and say this too. I guess when Tinseltown first called me, I guess it was Mr. Zachary who called, and I told him I said, sure, I think it's good, but let me check my principals, and let me, check on some things, really, I honestly forgotten about the nonprofit not being allowed, so I called him back. Can't remember, is that night or that day, or the next day? Immediately told him back, said we can't because of what our board policy states. So I guess that's kind of how this kind of come into the fold when he first called me. So then I think he probably started calling you guys.
Yeah,
From that point in time. So.
yeah, several in the community has asked about it.
It's
But
not been that long ago either, has it? I mean, we didn't know about this till when?
He called me
it's
out.
been some time, several.
Yeah, it was probably
Yeah.
back before Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
was
been some
back
time.
October, November, because they said it takes a long time. So like I said, when he called me, I immediately called him back either that evening or the next day. And, once I told him, I said, well, our policy does not allow that. So that was really the end of the discussion, I guess, until they started calling you guys.
Well, Mr. Hall, if we do this, there's going to be some glitches.
Oh, absolutely.
This could be a good thing, but we're going to have to see how it goes the first time,
Mhm.
and then we can fix those things if we decide to do this again.
Mhm.
But, if we don't venture out and try this, we'll never know. And our kids, we're holding them back from that opportunity. But we can fix the glitches after we do this the first time.
Well, I think so, and I think what Mr. Ricker said, if instead of amending the entire policy, with some time, we could have made the exception rule in with the policy. I would assume, but I think now, we've already got a motion to go with the waiving of what you fixed the policy, so.
Well, I tried not to disturb the policy any more than I had to. I left most of the provisions in place, but of course the biggie is to waive the use for private property. So,
I think it would maybe look a little bad if we just made the exception for one person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we just made the exception, they'd be like, well, why are they letting these people do it? We've been asking, over and over, and they never made an exception for us. It might look bad if we just make an exception.
I can't speak
Well, my
for-
suggestion for that was just simply, as Ms. Smith said, a trial and error to see if we could work the glitches out of it before we do dive in and change the policy. But again, if that's what you all want to do, it's your policy, make the change. I just want to try to make it work the best way possible. I don't want to be out trying to get something done that you all, there's misunderstandings on both sides. I think it's going to work in way A and you think it's going to work in way B. And it just doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of time and discussion between the two different groups of the people who is actually going to do it. And the policy part of it and the practice part of it, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of discussion there. So that's my hesitation. It's not about trying to deny to anybody the opportunities or rights to do any of that. It's just trying to make it work on the actual practice end of it. It's not as simple as sign a piece of paper and open the door.
I guess one of my things, you guys, no, they may not be interested in Fairview, and that's fine, is if you guys are for it, which is fine, and I hope you, if they come here and I'm against it, I don't want you mad at me.
Sure, absolutely.
You know,
It's gonna happen.
because I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I have a hard enough time getting employees to work ball games that they're supposed to work, let alone come in on a Sunday, a spring break, and spend all day. I've worked junior pro tournaments in Christmas where it's been 10 straight days, and them are some long days, and I can't sit out there all day long. And I can't promise that if they want to use Fairview, I'll try to make it work. But I can't promise I can get a janitor or somebody else to come in and sit there and work those games and be responsible for cleaning the bathrooms and you know, that type of stuff. So I just, you know, if we can make it work, but if it can't work, then I hope you guys aren't upset that if it comes out and it says no, or it comes out and says, we can do Friday and Saturday, but we can't do Sunday. And then they say, well, we'll just move it somewhere else, you know. You know, I know Mr. Boshears that's in charge of it. He actually come to those junior pro tournaments years ago. Nice guy. He's gonna, and that, Queen girl, I think's her name. They put on tournaments in Christmas like in Eagleton and stuff. They're making a bunch of money on this. They wouldn't do it if they wasn't making much money on it. And, you know, I just, you know, they might move it to somewhere else, because they got, I'm sure they got teams that travel with them, every weekend. So I just want to throw that, you know, we can make it, we can try to make it work, but it may not come together. And, like I said, the Sunday deal might be a big hiccup. If there's somebody's gotta be there the whole time, and I understand there needs to be, because there is, regardless of them signing the contract, if something happens, you know, there's still gonna be some liability and some, you know, possible lawsuits. I guess that's in the contract.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Was a motion to waive the second reading, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox?
Aye.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd? Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
No.
Item 9I, communications connectivity. A number of bids, contracts, and applications must be made each year to ensure communications connectivity for the Scott County school system. Authorization is requested to allow the Office of the Director of Schools to complete all necessary paperwork to extend or renew existing multi-year contracts with our current communications vendors and to advertise for new services in areas which may be needed. This includes all necessary steps to request E-rate funding for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion to authorize the Office of the Director of Schools to complete the items listed below for communications connectivity in the 2019-2020 school year? Extend contract with Highland Telephone Facility Communication Services. Extend contract with U.S. Cellular Mobile Communication Services. Renew participation with the State of Tennessee Education Broadband Consortium, TEBC. Extend contract with Education Networks of America Internet Access Services, TEBC. Extend contract with Telpage Incorporated Wide Area Network Services. Advertise additional E-rate eligible network services, Form 470-deadline 2/27/2019. Apply for E-rate funding, Form 471-deadline 3/27/2019.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye. Item 9J, odometers. CSH and the Scott County Schools would like to donate 5 odometers to SAI. The school system has purchased new odometers and no longer has the need of the older ones. SAI is a partner of the Scott County Schools and can benefit from these. May I have a motion to allow Coordinated School Health and the Scott County Schools to donate 5 odometers to SAI?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out that this is allowed by state law to a qualified nonprofit.
Good to know, John.
Any more discussion?
Good to know.
Waiting on the roll call.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye. Item 9K, Operation Share. The Scott County Board would like to donate $10,000 to Operation Share for contributions made to the Scott County Schools. May I have a motion to donate $10,000 to Operation Share?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
What's this go to?
Operation Share. The nozzle.
Where does the 10,000 go to if we give to, what do they use it for? If they donate all that
They'll
stuff?
probably use it for everything they use inside their facilities, as far as for payments,
Yeah.
I mean, everything's not.
cleanup, light, electrical. So, we just donate, because they probably gave up throughout the years,
Yeah, they have.
you know, so I think it's just we do that.
Any more discussion? Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, before we go to item 9L, Mr. Silcox, do you have anything you want to say? Ms. Smith?
We were asked to call our legislators about the voucher system, and I hope everybody makes that contact with our legislators before we go down there next week. So they'll have our name and a list, so, and they've asked to have that.
Ms. Sharp?
Just want to thank the schools for their nice appreciation gifts and recognition. Wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Got you.
I want to congratulate all the teachers of the year that were recognized, and I want to thank all the teachers for all they do for our kids.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody, teachers, principals, everyone that works. Happy Valentine's Day, and thank you for our gifts.
Good, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, thank everybody for their gifts too. Thank you for your work. Okay, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Waiting on the roll call.
Ms. Sharp?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Silcox?
Aye.
Ms. Kidd?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Sexton?
Aye.